Dan. How are you both doing?
Excellent.
We're here.
Yeah, that's true. We're here.
Here for a Monday night game featuring Dan's Giants. I'm sure we'll spend a giant amount of time talking about at least one of the teams in that game. Maybe both.
I see what you did here.
Yeah, but glad that we survived most of Week 8. I guess got one game left. Some interesting happenings. I guess glad it's maybe one of the most surprising things in terms of we were wrong about expectations was Jimmy Garoppolo. I know my DFS article for going for 2 for Yahoo. I advised Garoppolo. I said he was probably the best player on the slate. Stack him with Ayuk, and yeah,
it was my start of one of my starts for the Start and Set article. He was going against the 32nd ranked defense, giving up fantasy points to the quarterback, and he amasses 89 passing yards before he goes out in the third quarter. He went out second half. So either Seattle Seahawks defense suddenly became studly or Garoppolo sucks. So I'm going to go with the second because Mullins came in and got 283 yards playing against the same defense. Sorry, Jimmy G, but it was ridiculous. He looked bad. I mean, he didn't even pass the eye test. His throws that one interception was like, I'm pretty sure he's throwing it to Seattle guy. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive.
You made Ben DiNucci look like Dan Marino. He's bad. Garoppolo's bad.
He is.
He's bad. Listen, they haven't really – I understand why everyone loves Deebo Samuel, right? And this Ayuk lad, he looks pretty good. He looks like he's on the money. And obviously Kittle getting hurt doesn't help anyone's cause. Their running back rotation is an absolute farce at this point. But they didn't really go out to help him with any recruits in the offseason for wide receivers or whatnot. And they could have done well enough to keep Manny Sanders. They let him walk, and he was one of their few decent receivers when they traded for him from Denver. But they were relying on Ayuk and Samuel and a couple other rookies that you've never heard of, and Richie James and Kendrick Bourne. That's what they thought would work. Like that tells you all about what they think can work for that team. And, going 13-3, there's a bit of arrogance behind that, which I am not surprised because San Fran are the worst. But that's what they thought they could get away with. And obviously Deebo Samuel being hurt doesn't help at the start of the season, and he's never really looked right since he came back. He's flashed a little bit. Ayuk has looked pretty good too, but they aren't anywhere near what they should be, and that's hard to say at 4-3, right? So we got to keep it in perspective too. At 4-3, they're at the bottom of their division last week at 4-2. So I know a lot of teams that are in a certain division that we're going to talk about at some point tonight would kill for that.
Yeah, but I mean, he looked bad in the Super Bowl. And they're coming on the Super Bowl. And it's the same thing they were saying about Kyle's boy, Aaron Rodgers. They didn't give him any help in the offseason. Doesn't seem to have, diminished him that much. I refuse to let Garoppolo off on that. He's just not good. He's not good. For whatever reason, he's not good.
I will go with this as well because I've been on this before. I'm just double downing on this as well. I think there were like 3 players last year that had over 50 receptions.
Mm-hmm.
And Kendrick Bourne last year with George Kittle led the team with touchdowns with 6 receiving. So this is a team that clearly, I don't think they're ever going to lean on this whole idea or ethos that they are a decent enough team or they need to worry enough about chasing a game. That's not normally something that they do. You go back and you look at it. Where am I here? Kittle had 107 targets. There was only 2 players with over 50 receptions last year. That was Kittle and Deebo Samuel with 57. And Kittle had 85. And there were only 3 players over 500 yards receiving. That was Kittle, Samuel, and Sanders. One of those guys has been injured. One of them's half injured, and one of them's not on the team. And they didn't really stock up outside of Ayuk. And I think Juwan Johnson, I don't even know if he's there. He might be on another team at this point. So this is a team that went out last year that went 13-3 and thought, you know what, we don't even need receivers again. Let's not even bother. We've got Ayuk, we've got Samuel, we've got Kittle. That'll do. You can't do that. You can't have a receiving group like that and try to chase a game against Seattle. It's not going to work, especially if Garoppolo, as you said, is not as advertised or what we think he might be. I still think he's going to be a Patriot next year anyway. But that's another story for another day. He's going home. Another story for another day.
The team that drafted him, right? So they believed in him. And it's still the same GM and coach there. So
yeah. Well, as I said, this is a team last year that went 13-3 with two players over 50 receptions. So how much we rely on them to actually be doing more than that. And it was only 5 touchdowns for Kittle and Bourne. Five receiving touchdowns last year. They led the team. That says enough. They feel like they can get away with it without doing any more. I'm also not a San Fran fan. I think you guys know this. Not a fan of Buffalo or Minnesota. They're on
or Philly, Washington, Dallas, the entire NFC.
I don't even like the Giants.
Jets either. Because
whatever.
no
emotion in analysis, right?
Yeah, I know. You hate them all equally. That's perfect. No discrimination.
That's it. They all suck.
Now, speaking of Garoppolo going back to New England, I mean, obviously, there's the only possibility of that happening is because a certain Tom Brady's not there. He's in Tampa tonight, playing against the Giants. So,
hell of a segue.
Thank you. Navler Shane asking who's going off tonight's games. Anyone want to just throw a dart out at a name? Or have analysis behind it too?
Yeah, okay. So I'll go here. I think obviously with Chris Godwin being out, that's a big deal. And you can look to who the Giants have that's going to be doing the work. James Bradbury, when he was recruited, I've mentioned him a few times. He has been lights out, ridiculously amazing and underrated. I think he is highly, highly, highly due his praise. And when he was in the South last year, he kept pretty much everyone at bay. He only allowed 1 touchdown to NFC South. He was obviously Bradbury's with Carolina last year, allowed 1 touchdown to NFC South wide receivers, as it were. And that you got to remember that includes Godwin, Evans, Julio, Ridley, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, who's who. So I think he averaged like 40 yards a games per contest. He was really, really good. With Evans, I think he'll be fine. I think it helped Evans more with Godwin. Scotty Miller's had the hip injury. Hip injury. I think it could be something like a Rob Gronkowski or Tyler Johnson game. I think it'll be someone out of nowhere that actually comes out and does some work. Tyler Johnson, I think, has had 5 or 6 touchdowns for the year already, and no one talks. He might have one reception a game, but he's good for that touchdown with it. And Gronk has started to find his stride as well. So if someone's going to break out from Tampa, I still think it'll be someone like Gronk or Tyler Johnson out of nowhere.
I wonder another receiver comes in, especially if Scotty Miller's not quite up to par. I wonder if it's Justin Watson. I mean, he has the big game, especially, as Dan, you're mentioning, if Bradbury's all over Evans, maybe the better coverage assignment for Watson. And he's the athletic freak that all the spark people like myself really clamor for finally gets his chance tonight.
Yeah, the Giants they've struggled with their cornerback too. We can call a spade a spade. They have been struggling, obviously. The injuries, we could call it an injury. He kind of crippled his career. DeAndre Baker, his issue, obviously in the preseason with the law, he's on the lam. He's not done too well, but obviously that left a big hole with the Giants cornerback. It was going to be him and James Bradbury partnered up, and that would have been okay. Baker, he was a little shaky last year, but it's been a rotation of cornerbacks since that's happened. I think whoever's opposite Evans is going to have a field day, and that could be Justin Watson, it could be Miller, and that could also be Tyler Johnson as well. So Ryan Lewis is out, and he's done okay. He's the other cornerback. He's been okay, and obviously, what was the other? Isaac Yardim's been terrible. Ballantyne's been torched all year. So Ryan Lewis, I think he was a guy who's come in and he's been all right, and but he's out tonight, and I think we could be in a bit more trouble than we look. I say we loosely. I hate the Giants too. Terrible.
Gladys, any other names that you wanted to mention? I mean, are there any? And I mean, I'm looking at Neighbor Shane's question. It doesn't necessarily have to be for the Bucks. Is there someone for the Giants that could produce tonight?
I think that the best the best opportunity would be Golden Tate. Even though he's only had like 26 targets, he is going against Budding Murphy, who is just probably the weak link in the secondary for the Bucks. It says he's He's allowing a completion percentage of 91.1% thrown his way. So if Golden Tate, if he's shadowing Tate, that would be, if Jones is thinking, the way to go, where to throw. I would also say Ingram, except I don't have confidence in Ingram. I have confidence in that position against the Bucks, but I don't have confidence in Ingram against the Bucks. So if I had to pick a Giants who is going to go off, I would say probably Golden Tate or Danny Dimes running for a touchdown or two to save his life.
I mean, he covered enough yardage last time to score for 2, so maybe he gets his due this week.
Exactly.
People look at the fall. I look at the 80 yards he ran. All right, let's look at the positive here. Listen, I don't think he thought he was getting any further than 20 yards, and he was going with all his might. He was running uphill. He was doing well. I was proud of him. That was a long yard. Listen, they don't practice the 80 mark. They go to the combine, like they don't do an 80-yard dash. It's a 40-yard dash. 40-yard dash, he was flying. 80 yards, he was.
Well, he was flying and he dove, but yeah.
He flipped. He gave everyone value for money.
Maybe thinking they reversed Todd Gurley, right? Okay, no, go down, don't score right away. Let's keep the time of possession going. We want to maintain clock.
He was just showing him how it's done. That's it.
Yeah, there you go, Todd Gurley. That's the
take
way.
Take the knee. You'll be fine.
Hang
on, we're going for the score to play or two later as well, so we've got to. And that's probably better for most people's fantasy. I think it was Gorman that crossed, and if anyone was streaming Gorman on the Thursday, then there you go.
So Michael Morrison wanted to know about Tyler Johnson. So B-League over here is speaking quite highly of him against not so much his hatred for the Giants. And I know D Brown just mentioned in the slates tonight for Showdown. Tyler Johnson's 4,800 on DraftKings. So
yeah, he's going to be good for 1 or 2 targets. It's going to be end zone. It's only going to be red zone driven, and he's going to hit that 3-4 yard reception. It's going to be a touchdown every time. He's been safe and he's been really good. Like for what they've asked him to do, like he's someone I wish I could get onto one of my squads. I think he's done really, really well for what it's worth. But obviously that's a loaded team, and you've got Scotty Miller's come really. You kind of felt it was either Watson or Miller that was going to take that third-year leap, I think, or third-year leap. Was it Watson's in his third year, and Miller's kind of grasped that. But at the same time, like we're going to talk about Antonio Brown at some point, and as good as Tyler Johnson has been for the limited work that he's had, that might, and it's not a bad thing. You've got Evans, Godwin, and Antonio Brown. If you're a rookie receiver, that's amazing. Like, who wouldn't want to learn from those three? They all bring something different to the table, and that's just, it might be where he could walk away a Super Bowl winner as a rookie, and, now he can just work on his craft after that. I like Tyler Johnson. I think he's done really well this year for what he's had to do.
I know Michael Morrison again mentioning that Scotty looked pretty healthy last week.
Right.
I know myself, I'm actually having to decide tonight between playing Justin Watson and Scotty Miller. I believe I need to get 7 points.
I would be on Scotty Miller for that.
Scotty Miller.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. If it was a big gap, I might go with Watson. But yeah, to get 7.
So for what it's worth,
7.5. Oh yeah, 7 points.
So for what it's worth, if you're looking at PPR, right? So we'll go over the over-unders later. They've got Scotty Miller at 3.5 receptions, 47 yards. There's your 7 points. If that makes sense. Okay. So if he hits the bare minimum of 3 and 40, then you're good. And I think he's going to have a good time anyway.
And Michael's saying last time Godwin went out 4 for 60. So, yeah.
I also feel like
that is enough.
I could be wrong, and Michael, he might be able to clarify that. I also feel like that game that Godwin was out where he went 4 for 60, I feel like he let one slip between his fingers. He was diving for one. Brady nailed it for him. And I feel like he dropped a sitter that would have gone for, I think, like 15 yards and a touchdown. I feel like that happened. I could be wrong, though. And that's spotty memory for that, but I feel like that's what happened. I'm probably wrong. Don't listen to me.
So a question here we'll get to before we get into the bulk of the Monday night preview. Lost Kittle. This is Sean talking here. Here's who's available on waivers: Jared Cook, Austin Hooper, Mike Gesicki, Taysom Hill, who is a tight end on ESPN, Trey Burton, Ross Dwelly. So who do you all like rest of season? I know there's one name in particular that I just look at right away and think.
He's just for next week.
It says rest of season, so he needs a starter. Like losing Kittle, he needs a starter the rest of the year at tight end.
Yeah, I think Kittle's
For the rest of the year.
8 weeks.
8 weeks.
What?
So
I saw 8 weeks.
Son of a. Okay, I have Kittle in like 4 leagues. Pretty sure I'm gonna need that. Go to the waiver pretty soon.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. So Gladys, this might help you out too. So I'm thinking Jared Cook right off the bat, especially because we're not really sure when Michael Thomas is coming back. It seems as though he's going to be one of those main targets. Emmanuel Sanders, mentioned him earlier already, but he's out with COVID right now. And to varying degrees, we've seen players come back and it seems like it doesn't affect them, but others haven't quite been the same necessarily. So who knows what that's going to look like. Traquan Smith can't seem to get any type of consistency. So I think Cook this year, through necessity, is going to garner a lot of targets week to week. And I think, rather than streaming, if you're looking for that starter every week that you want and compared to streaming options, you want that solid floor. I think Cook's going to get the targets for that.
Feels like he does this every year, though, Jared Cook, right? Half the year he goes missing, and then the next half the year he just goes bonkers. And then everyone overdrafts him again in August, September. It feels like every year he does this. So, yeah, Cook, I think Austin Hooper's a decent name to look at, considering Rashard Higgins was kind of nowhere. And obviously with Odell being out for the rest of the year, there's a little bit more work to go around. Obviously with Stefanski and how he deploys his team, he might be an upgrade on what a Kyle Rudolph was going to do anyway. And Hooper's been relatively quiet this year. He's flashed a little bit. I mean, I think I would actually go the alternative to this. I kind of like Trey Burton. I think they've been trying to find ways to get him going. Rushing touchdowns, they've been using him a fair bit. And look, Mo Ali Cox seems to be something that's faded, and Jack Doyle's kind of still in and around. And their receivers, obviously T.Y. Hilton's out, I think, again. Their receivers are spotty at best. At best, it's Zach Pascal, maybe. That's their best receiving option. And they're winning games. They're putting up 40 points a week at this point. Maybe not. I'm being a little pedantic, but Trey Burton at this point is going to figure, because there is no one in that game, in that team. What, Naheem Hines is going to do it again? Trey Burton's healthy, and he's getting looks from Phillip Rivers in a team that's scoring points that's 5-2. I kind of like that one. But Cook's the obvious one to me, but I kind of like Trey Burton going forward, the way they've let him off the leash a little.
You think about with Burton, I mean, already he's played 3 games now. He's got 3 red zone targets, and that puts him.
Tight ends need a touchdown to be relevant. It's called the Lee Smith factor. Lee Smith's going to have that one game where he gets 1 reception for 15 yards and he's a tight end 12. So,
I actually, looking at this, again, gravitated initially towards Cook, but you made some good points, with Burton and even Gesicki. You could maybe even make the argument, once Tua starts to establish himself, he might be a guy he looks to a lot more. I think, if anything, there's an obvious guy not to take here. I think it's Taysom Hill, just because, again, when you're looking for a starter, you want consistency week to week, and you're never going to get that with Hill, and it's so tough to predict the spike weeks. I think maybe would almost be something advisable, to try and maybe get 2 tight ends here, try and pick up Cook and Burton and play the matchups week to week. I wonder if that maybe gives a better hindsight.
Burton's had 20 targets in 4 games that he's been in. So five targets a game for a tight end's nothing to sneeze at. Only the 1 touchdown. He's had 1 rushing as well. So I think Cook can outdo that, like you said. But I think if you're looking at someone, Dwelly's not a bad guy to pick up either. He did okay when Kittle went out last year as well. But I kind of feel like, Cook is going to boom because that's what he does. But I kind of like if you've got Trey Burton getting 5 targets a week, I kind of like that too.
Gladys, any thoughts? Or?
I like Trey Burton. I've been on Trey Burton since he's gotten back. Phillip Rivers throws I think it was 8.2% to tight ends. His propensity to throw to tight ends is higher than the league average. Burton is the guy the tight end that has been. Mo Alley Cox is hurt. Jack Doyle is hurt. Burton has been the guy that they've been going to. But I think as far as the floor goes, Jared Cook has a lower floor. I think that he's the more steady. Even if Thomas comes back, Jared Cook is still involved in that offense. Drew Brees tends to throw to him. I think that Burton has the higher ceiling, I guess is what I'm saying. Burton has a higher ceiling. Jared Cook has lower floor. So depending on who your wide receivers are, I don't know. I have Kittle, like I said. So my wide receivers weren't that strong because I took Kittle early. So I would have to go with someone who had a lower floor. I would have to go with Jared Cook just to be safe. But Trey Burton has a higher ceiling. Although I think the Colts have a harder schedule too coming up in the next 4 games. I know they play the Ravens next week, which Eric Ebron scored a touchdown on them, but that was the Steelers. So, it's not Phillip Rivers and the Colts. I would go Cook 1, Burton 2, Hooper 3. Gesicki has just regressed out of that offense. I'm not even sure what's going on. Maybe it'll turn around with Tua there, but not last week, but the week before the bye, every tight end but Gesicki had a target. So,
Adam Shaheen scored.
Yeah.
Adam Shaheen scored a week ago. This is crazy.
Gesicki would be he would be after Hill on my list on that one. But I would go Jared Cook, Trey Burton, Austin Hooper.
I don't know if I go under Hill, but yeah. Hey, well, so hopefully again, Sean, good point there by Gladys. So maybe if you really are reaching for that ceiling, Burton probably has a better chance to become the alpha on his team than Cook does. So if that's kind of you're trying to replace Kittle with that, I guess I'd have to agree with both the co-hosts and that Burton provides the best opportunity. Still like Jared Cook's floor. So I guess it's we've narrowed down to those two. Whatever your preference between ceiling and floor, I guess, is where it's at. I got my butt kicked this week, LOL, by John Rurark. I think a sentiment shared by all of us. There's definitely a few leagues where I got utterly destroyed. Also, I guess correction from earlier, that 4 for 60 that Michael was talking about, that was actually Tyler Johnson that did that in Chris Godwin's absence, not Scotty Miller. So my mistake there.
Even better.
Also, Chris Robin at Detroit Beastie says, "Good evening, fellas," or "Good evening, friends," not fellas. I should misattribute. I need to learn how to read properly, apparently. But yeah, Chris was on the Armchair Show on Wednesday. It's
fun
great
show
to have him on. Actually, wasn't he on with you on Sunday morning, Gladys?
He was, and he had I guess they're having a snowstorm out in Detroit, and the wind knocked down his Wi-Fi, so we lost him for a lot. But
Chris, thanks for joining us tonight. And then John asks, who do you think is a top waiver wire ad for this week?
It's going to be a tight end with Kettle out. It's, you know what I mean? You don't think?
Well, yeah, for anyone who has Kittle, I think, that has to be your priority. But that's one team in 12 per league, right? So
I kind of like the idea of grabbing your guy Jermichael Hasty.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Or DJ Dallas. I mean, he was okay. For what it's worth, a guy like that. Yeah,
got a ton of opportunity, especially in that zone.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the most efficient at performance, but still, that's still work, and that might prolong them from rushing Carson back or whatnot. I kind of like. I love it when teams hit the dumpster fire. Oh, receiver, perfect. I'm getting that.
Yeah, I know. We talked about anything but receivers. So John wants to
I'm working my way around to that.
Okay, good.
I love the dumpster fire teams at this time of year. So there's two guys that I really like. Denzel Mims, I think he's starting to look okay, and the Jets suck, so they're just going to roll him out now that his hamstring's a bit better. And Darnell Mooney out in Chicago. I think if he is out there, they're looking for him. And I think he's been pleasantly surprising this year. And I don't like normally recommending rookie receivers. That's not something I prefer to do. I'm sure Sterling Shepard's out in half the leagues. I'm certain of it because people just have no idea that he's out there. Golden Tate could be. There's a lot of guys out there that are probably a bit more safer, but I kind of like the idea if like Jamison Crowder's still out, Perryman's still out, Jets are going to be chasing games. You've got to probably get a good 10-point floor for PPR there for Mims. That's what I think. I think he's got the opportunity there to get some work now with Donald.
I've got a couple of Marvins on Detroit. Marvin Jones, if he's available, obviously is the obvious one, but Marvin Hall as well. I don't know how long Kenny Golladay is going to be out, but I think either might also be an option on a team that's already passed their bye week, and Stafford loves to throw the football. Sorry, Gladys.
No, you're fine. I was going to say, I totally forgot what I was going to say. I was going to say KJ Hamler from the Broncos, mainly for next week because they play the Falcons. Ooh. And I would play any receiver against the Falcons, and Hamler's probably the one on the Broncos that isn't picked up yet. And Drew Lock looks his way. So Hamler for me would be the top, if I have to go wide receiver, the top waiver wire ad.
Actually, I like that better than any of them. Well, maybe not Marvin Jones, but I like that better than Marvin Hall call. So, yeah.
No, it's Hamler's going to get work.
Yeah.
What a good young team the Broncos have going forward as well. That team, like, we still forget Sutton's out. Judy, Hamler, Ogwabunam.
Philip Lindsay.
Oh, my God. Like, that's a good team that they could rattle out there. It takes me back to like a couple of years ago. Like, I remember the geographical biased location team that I followed, the New York Giants, when they had like Ingram, Beckham, and Shepard that were young, like when they first came through, and like everyone went, wow, there's a lot of promise with players like that can come through. And like you look at the Broncos and what they're doing, my God, like that's a stacked receiver group there.
It also helps that you're playing the Chargers who fold after double-digit leads too. So
it's a good thing. Right. Not hating it.
Oh my God, it was so bad.
The one edge with Hamler in particular is, when you're looking for that end of bench waiver wire player that, okay, I want to throw in for upside. I mean, Hamler has the speed to kind of provide that upside of that big play potential. So that does make a lot of sense for that reason. Son and Mom 3 on Twitch says hi as well.
Son and Mom, how are you?
We're on Twitch.
Yeah. Don't twitch too hard. Again, Sean really appreciates the analysis. Apparently, could pick up both Cook and Burton. Makes it for tough decisions every week, but if you could master those decisions and get them right as close as often as possible, then you certainly reap the rewards of that.
I still feel like tight end is it's a terrible position, but I feel like it's okay to stream the position as well. If you don't have Kittle, if you don't have Kelsey, look, Mark Andrews is killing you. Mark Andrews is killing you. Most weeks, he's absolutely killing you. Hayden Hurst, who people were taking 7th, 8th round, he's killing you half the time. Like, you can play a matchup. You can find these teams that are like really okay with tight ends doing well, and you can just roll one out. Like, you can stream that most other weeks. Like, you'll be fine. Like, it's really something you can do it. Like, you think about every time you play DFS, like a week or two ago, I was all about Harrison Bryant. Hooper's out. The tight ends have their way with everything. Harrison Bryant's a guy I'm going to stream at $2,500 or whatever he was worth. You can get away with that. Atlanta, anyone that's playing Atlanta, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, New Orleans, Bills, Eagles, Jets, and Washington, they're all giving up 10 points a game to the position. And you can be relatively comfortable with that happening. But at the same time, some people are okay to take that 8 points and whatever.
John also wants
a question real quick. So if Kittle's out 8 weeks, this is like purely self-serving question. Isn't that like the end of the year? Yeah, that's the end of the year.
That would put him week 17 return.
Well, he's also an animal too. So he could be also that dude that ends up coming back 5 weeks later. He's a bit crazy like that.
Yeah, true.
But I'll say to it again. Like I went through this through the I went through this through the preseason with the Giants, and San Fran were half inquiring about Evan Ingram. And the trade deadline's in, a day or two. And the Giants can probably get rid of Evan Ingram. So you could see that as a move that could be made, and that could help them out pretty. Not saying that they're the same player, but at the same point.
Right.
Well, I think for what's going on right now, that has to for sure help Evan Ingram's value. It's a better offensive line. I don't know if it'll be a better quarterback, but at least like Kyle Shanahan running in a better just overall offense. That
I mean, to be fair, I mean, I don't even know if it's an offense. Like, I don't think that's a Jason Garrett problem. Evan Ingram just can't catch the ball. That's his problem. He's absolutely dropping it, or he's slipping in an intercept. 4 out of Jones's intercepts out of 7 have gone when he's targeting Ingram. Ingram's either gotten lost or he's misread the play. Like, that isn't a Jones problem. That's an Ingram problem. This is a problem that I have having to watch the Giants every week. And a lot of the time, Ingram's at fault for a lot of the issues. Like, these things are happening, but I feel like they picked up his option, and with how salary cap's going to work out next year, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the guy that gets moved after tonight. If he goes off, maybe tomorrow around 4:00 we see Evan Ingram move to somewhere else. And if San Fran feel like they're a chance to keep moving forward and be in that playoff hunt, again, they're at 4-3. Why not? Why not?
And with 7 playoff teams, all 4 teams from a division can make the playoffs now. You can have 3 wild cards from the same division, theoretically. So they can still stay 4th and make the playoffs. So the eyes really aren't necessarily even within their own division. It's just the whole conference. So
what is it? Minnesota from the north and maybe New Orleans, Tampa in the south. They're the only teams that are really going to push those teams in the NFC West.
And I mean, Minnesota's, they're 2 games back of the 49ers now, right? So like they themselves need to make a push just to get to where the 49ers are at.
Yeah. And,
so yeah.
Again, like I know San Fran play Green Bay next week, and the week after, I feel like they have a divisional game that's in their favor. I wrote about it last week. That's going to haunt me. I feel like it's a divisional game. Mate, I don't think it's Arizona. It might be the Rams, whatever it might be. I feel like someone in the division. I think it's Seattle again.
So John, for his waiver pickups, also want to know about running back. So Dan mentioned both the names specifically the one name I was going to think of, in JaMychal Hasty. Also mentioned DJ Dallas. Not sure how long injuries both Seattle and San Francisco are going to have in their backfields, but yeah, both could have extended amount of times.
I would bank that Gio Bernard's still out there. Sorry, Gladys, but I feel like Gio Bernard's probably still out there on most waiver wires. I'd bank on it. I bet he's still out there.
Now his bye week is coming up, right? I think the Cincinnati does have a week 9 bye.
Joe Mixon will probably be back the week after. Bengals have the bye next week, so and I felt like Mixon could have came back this week, but see what Bernard can do without him. So
Bernard's value doesn't entirely evaporate when Mixon comes back either. That's a guy that's worth holding on to even once Mixon returns. You don't necessarily want to play him.
He was getting goal line
often. I think what you'd – sorry?
He was getting goal line looks too.
Yep.
That's
already 3.
Yeah.
But so did P. Ryan. P. Ryan did get one as well, but yeah. Bernard's definitely, I think, worth having on rosters. Gladys, was there anyone you want to mention at running back?
Damian Harris, like he's owned in 46% of Yahoo leagues, but they're an absolute shit show right now, and he's the only one playing reasonably well. And the whole thing on the New England Patriots was you couldn't trust Belichick with the running backs because he would change them out, change them in. He can't do that. He only has one running back that's being productive, unless he's tanking the season. He only has one player on the offensive side that's actually playing well. I see them maybe pulling Newton. I can see it happen. Damian Harris is the player to have if you're gonna.
With how bad Garoppolo has been playing and him being out, the 49ers trade for Cam Newton? With how much they like to run the football, knowing that we're talking about how the pass game isn't working. Do the 49ers go that route?
No.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I'll give you 2 running backs. I think I would bet that someone's dropped Cam Akers and J.K. Dobbins. And I would bet, if we're talking purely redraft, and I would bet that because of their bye this week, maybe not everyone went out and got Chase Edmonds. So I kind of feel like those are some guys that you could, like, if Chase Edmonds is out there, even if it's for 2 or 3 weeks while Drake is out, that guy can go absolutely off when he gets the chance. So I kind of feel like
I think Edmonds is number 1 if he's out there out of everyone we've named, because
Harris,
there's a chance if he's
Damian Harris for me would. Now that you think about it, Harris, they can't throw a ball, can they? Like, they're not looking great throwing the ball. So, like, if Harris is the guy that's going to go nuts, Gladys is spot on there. But Edmonds, I think, in that offense could be, if he's actually given the chance to be that lead guy, I think, and obviously when Drake gets back, Drake will still get his work again. That'll probably go back to what it was. But we're looking at your team is week 9, and you could be 4-5 at this point. And you're looking for that playoff push. Edmonds might get you a couple wins on his own. Like, he could be a big difference maker.
Edmonds is still Drake hasn't missed any games yet. Edmonds is leading the Cardinals in red zone targets. So he's been involved even when Drake was there. And if he shows out and he does really well these games, I wouldn't be surprised if he overtakes Drake as the lead running back. So I that's why I have Edmonds as 1, because I think he has the chance to sustain this expected heavy workload over the course of the rest of the season.
I mean, that I kind of like how that would work. I think on a points per game basis, if I'm not wrong, Edmonds was still about a week ago, he was ahead of him. So that.
And we haven't played, so it should be the same.
No. Sorry. Drake was at 12.2 points per game. Edmonds was at 12.
According to CBS, Edmonds is rostered in 87% of the leagues.
Yeah. So if you're in that 20%.
Yeah. Wow.
So if you're in that, 87, if you're in that 13% that doesn't have him, go pick up Chase Edmonds. But I can assume that he's not available in your league, John. But
Sorry.
So hopefully we gave some names that are available. Now we'll get to the full Monday night preview. About time, 40 minutes in, right? BUSR.com/going-for-2. You get the 20% bonus offer when joining. Again, that's at BUSR.com/going-for-2. That's where we got these odds. 47 over-under with the Bucks as 13-point favorites. And Dan pointed out this has gone up 1.5 points since 10 a.m. So suddenly expecting more points overall. I remember seeing the Bucks at what? There were 12 and a half. So I guess it's mostly just gone up pretty evenly.
Over-under's come up 1.5 points. My bad. So that was has both they put both teams up equally, or is it because one team's gone up in the spread? For some reason it's been at 13. It hasn't.
Okay.
Really.
I think the Bucks were 10.5 points favorite. Now they're 12.5. So it's the Bucks that are moving.
Okay. People have faith in the offense, I suppose, even without Chris Godwin. So notes from the game. Thanks, Dan, for all these. I don't know if you want to read these out because you wrote them, or if you wrote them, you don't have to read them out.
I don't even want to.
Giants are averaging 12 points per game against non-NFC East teams, but score 16.5 at home. Have led at home at halftime in all but one game. 49ers week 3. Back to the 49ers talk again. Jones has faced Steelers, Bears, 49ers, Rams, Buccaneers. Should we cut him some slack? I don't know. That's a you question, Dan. Are you cutting Jones any slack here? Do you thinking that fantasy wise are there rosier days ahead towards the fantasy playoffs?
Nice pun. I would say this. I would say Andrew Thomas has been appalling. He has been bad. This is the round 1 pick 4. Andrew Thomas. He has been terrible. Will Hernandez? Well, I mean, what are you going to do? Like the kid. He looked good, didn't he? He was fine in college, and then he's just had a very big learning curve. Will Hernandez is out with COVID, so he's gone. The Giants center is Nick Gates. I think he's a right tackle by trade, and he played the center this year. Zietler's been okay, not his best. And we've had a litany of right tackles kind of come in between Fleming and Pert, whatever. So, you lose Barkley as well, and Barkley wasn't doing a good job blocking. The kid was getting exposed. I don't know. I think that's a tough start to the year when you look at the Bears. The Steelers are just amazing, and San Fran's front line are crazy good. Dallas didn't give him any problems, he put up 35 points, 30-odd points. Washington were tough. He still put up 22. Eagles put up 20. Eagles are tough-ish. You know, I kind of feel like, you know, the problems are still there. The turnovers have to slow down still. But, you know, he's not going to get like the Bucks. You look at with JPP, 5.5 sacks. Who's it? Barrett's had 3. Like, they've been insanely good, the Bucks. I think he's in all sorts of trouble tonight. And that's stating the obvious, right? Like, that's very obvious. Like, the Bucks are one of the best defenses in the league, and they're going to give a guy whose line is terrible, no running back, all sorts of grief tonight. And then you've got Winfield playing out of his mind, Carlton Davis as well. So even if he tries to chuck it, you know, good chance it's not going to one of his guys in blue. So I kind of feel like he's been put behind a bit of the 8 ball this year. He's looked good in spurts. I think he's looked all right. But, you know, again, at one point it was Golden Tate who was looking terrible and Slayton as the X, and I'm not sure that's what Slayton is. But, you know, and Ingram can't catch a ball. What are you going to do? You know, Giants have been an absolute dysfunctional mess all year. But at the same time, you know, Jones has looked all right against some tough teams, I think. But again, this wasn't really a question designed for me. I was asking you guys. Well, as the Giants, you know, representative for going for 2. Hi, Jay. What's up?
There's a few.
Yeah. It kind of feels easy to say the guy got hammered, but like you see what's in front of him. Those front 5 are just terrible. Terrible.
I think in terms of his job security, I don't think that's really in question. Like we're seeing Dwayne Haskins from the same draft class is kind of, that's very clear. Like it seems like his rope's at an end. Like his time with Washington is done. Does it seem like
even Drew Lock from that class, you still don't feel.
Yeah.
You know, if they ended up, you know, the Broncos have a bad run to the end of the year, you know, Drew Lock might be in trouble too. But it feels like even how bad they are, I don't think the Giants would take Trevor Lawrence no matter what. So. I don't think they would. So it's one of those things where he's going to be there next year no matter what.
I guess it depends. I mean, I guess it depends if Gettleman's there or not, right? Like, and I think, you know, maybe a new GM putting his stamp on my quarterback. But I do wonder, like, you know, if any new GM does come in and believe in the evaluation of Jones, then, yeah, best position to just, at the top of the draft, take the best player available, whoever's the best impact, because it seems like offensively or defensively they could use help kind of everywhere, so.
I think Xavier McKinney comes back in a week or 2 as well. And that guy was an absolute steal in the second round for the Giants. He hasn't played a game yet. I think he hurt his foot 5 or 6 weeks out, maybe 8 weeks before the season started. So a guy like that who could be amazing, you know, he'll be back soon enough. And then that boosts that safety area anyhow. But I don't know. I don't know. I was interested to see what you guys thought about that. Those are some tough defenses that guy's faced with a terrible front 5. I didn't know if you guys had the same thoughts, so I thought I'd put it out there.
I think against better matchups, he's probably still a low. You know, he's going to be probably a QB2, maybe a middle of the pack. QB2 is maybe to slightly high end. QB2 is maybe about as best you can hope for anyway. So, you know, in super flex leagues, there are going to be weeks where he's startable in good matchups. But even in single quarterback leagues, I don't know that he's probably not even rosterable at this point, to be honest. I was hammering him in best ball because I don't want to have to deal with when I you don't want to deal with those weeks. So he was like a second quarterback, or if I took him as my first quarterback, I was hoping to get like Big Ben second a few rounds later. Or a Cam Newton who no one was picking up. It didn't matter. So you were trying to hope that something like that would happen, but no. Save me, Gladys.
He has played some really, really tough defenses, and I think it's unfair that we gave Deshaun Watson the pass. You know, everyone's like, "Oh, Deshaun Watson played the Steelers, and they played Kansas City, and that's why he's bad." And then Danny Dimes doesn't get the same pass, and he's played arguably a better defensive front than Watson did for the first 4 games. So. I think that he should get a pass, but it doesn't happen this week because it's like another good defensive front that he has to go against, and they have to. Losing Saquon doesn't help because now teams know that they're not going to, you know, they don't have someone to run the ball, and and you don't have that out, and then you're going to meet all these defenses that are top 10 against the rush at least, and they're going to just pressure him, and that's what they've been doing. But he's shown that he has the ability to rise above it. He just doesn't have the talent around him to help him rise above it. And what, like you said, Ingram's dropping balls. Like, there are balls that are quite catchable that he's just not getting a hold of. And it's putting more pressure on the quarterback, who, God bless him, is running 80 yards down the field to try to score, and falling over his own feet. He's doing the best he can against some really good defenses with a subpar supporting cast. So, yeah, I give him a pass. I give him a big pass.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the main difference, fantasy-wise, at least, between Watson and Jones is that, Watson, I guess, because Jones, the run's kind of an outlier. It's not typically been his game.
It's not. No, he's one of the higher rushing quarterbacks in the league. People don't see this. He's like averaging I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna be wrong. And if anyone's out there want to double check on this, I'm sure he's up around that 30, 32 yards a game. I'm sure he's close to that. So he's getting yards on the ground. Like, he's getting those yards. And obviously last week that's gonna. So I understand that too. But
42.3.
Yeah, and that
42.3 yards a game.
Is he leading them in rushing yards?
Yeah, rushing is. Yeah, he is.
Actually, he is leading them in rushing yards. Yeah, by like over 100 yards. Yeah.
You can go back to last year as well, and he was doing the same thing. Like, he was getting those yards on the ground too. Like, he's kind of athletic in that regard. He can get rushing yards too, and he has that for him. He'll get you 3-4 points a week doing that, and he has to. He's running for his life. That line can't protect him. So he's scrambling. He's scrambling it like at least once a quarter. It's happening. So he can do that. It's just one of those things where, like, he's having to do it on the ground too. And like, you look at it, like, if anyone watched the Falcons game last week, you saw Matt Ryan trying to run for his life. It's happening. Like, Jones is kind of tracking along that elk. Like, he's going to get 20 to 30 yards rushing a week, even with Barkley.
What's the over-under on his rushing yards for tonight?
I have that. It would be 25.5.
Oof. Okay.
And I would take that.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Just because of how potent the pass rush is. And
yeah.
And they're probably content to let him have, go get that first down, whatever. But we're going to not let you get the big plays with those receivers. Yeah. So, I think you wrote down, Dan, before we get into some of these props. Giants have given up the 9th least rushing yards. So you're asking, who's the better day between Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette? And knowing that stat right there, I do feel like Fournette is getting more of the pass-catching opportunities. So I would lean towards Fournette for that reason.
I would lean towards Fournette because I think he's getting a lot of the goal line opportunities too.
Yeah, maybe. I think they'll start with Jones. And it happens. This tends to happen with Ronald Jones as well. He's out there until he does something wrong. It happened last week. He dropped a pass. Done. Fournette, you're in. That happened on Fournette's debut as well. He drops a pass. Done. Out you go. So they'll start with Jones. And again, like, they've got him at 63.5 rushing yards for over-under. That's what I've got there for it. I don't even think he gets that. I don't think he gets that close.
Who Jones or Fournette? 63.
Jones at 63.5. Fournette 47.5. And they've got Jones. They got Ronald Jones at 63.5 rush yards.
But you're going under on that?
Yeah, I would. I think I lean more towards Fournette at 47.5.
Okay.
And I mean, the one I really like is Fournette catching 2.5 passes.
Over under
19 and a half receiving yards on those 3 receptions. I mean, I like both those numbers. For Fournette especially, but even Jones receiving, 1.5 at 10.5 yards. Those aren't horrible. I think I like both of those either player rushing. Certainly, I definitely agree. I like Jones under on the 63 yards. The Fournette one's tricky there. I'm not sure which direction I'd even want to go. I don't really feel confident in either way.
I think you're right. I think the receiving yards at 19.5, Fournette should hit. I think he should hit that.
Yeah, I mean last year, he's a dump off guy, but he can, with that dump off roll, he can get you 8 yards 9 yards a catch, and all he needs is 3 receptions. So, again, we've talked about the game totals. Buccaneers team totals at 29.5, Giants at 16.5. And the halftime total is Buccaneers up by 7 and 22.5 total points. So quickly, any of those numbers stand out to anyone?
Bucks at 30 points.
Yeah, it's 29.
I'm trying to think of the amount of times. I think only twice this year the Giants have had 30 points put on them. I feel like that was Nick Mullins when he was in town with San Fran, and I feel like it was the Dallas game as well. So only twice the Giants have had 30 put on them. So that's that. I think also the Giants, the Giants at 16.5. Graham Gano's going to have a field day for that to happen. He's going to have to. It's cold outside. My hamstrings are hurting sitting down inside. It's cold out here in New York, but the Bucks to go over 29.5 with that team, I think they can do it. 22.5 at halftime. I feel like that's going to hit, and I feel like the game's going to slow down a lot after that. That's what I think.
Brady's going to take advantage, going to figure out the defense, and then the second quarter just shred them.
He's going to go full Kirk Cousins and have a 15-yard drive for 15 minutes. He's just going to milk everything. It's going to be terrible. That'll be peak Brady in the middle of New York. But he's going to go full Cousins. But, I kind of like the idea of that. 22.5, Bucks at -7. Giants have been playing teams close in the first half as well. So I think the Giants +7 at halftime is something I would lean on, and 22.5 for that to happen. The Giants just seem to melt away the second half. I think that their second half isn't their friend.
Okay.
See, that's the upset of Tampa Bay. That's when Brady has been coming alive as the second half of games. So that doesn't bode well for the Giants at all.
Nothing bodes well for the Giants. Have you seen that? Have you seen it play? That's terrible. That's so bad. It's hard to watch. They're not Dallas bad, but man.
No one's Dallas bad.
The Jets.
So the over-under on the touchdown.
A category all to themselves.
Yeah.
It's called the Gase Bowl, the Adam Gase Bowl. Cesspool of categories.
Listen, he's the martyr you didn't know you needed, but he's the martyr you want. Not all heroes wear capes if you're rebuilding. Adam Gase is there, Stone Cold. Listen, there's no crowd booing them. There's no need to sack him. It's not like there's any internal pressure at a game.
They've got a plan, and he's executing it perfectly. If that is in fact a plan, he could probably execute that better than anyone. He's probably not even trying. They're probably actually tell him, go out there and try and win us the games, knowing full well he won't.
What is that white man can't jump line? Is it sometimes when you really win, you really lose, and sometimes when you really lose, you really win? That's what they're doing. When they lose, they win. They're winning.
Oh my God!
To just draft another quarterback that they'll ruin. Yeah,
we got a Rosie Perez quote in there today. We're doing all right. We're going all right.
So,
been a good Monday.
Total TDs over under 5. That's
I thought it was odd to not be 5.5.
Yeah,
I think
that seems like someone to definitely take advantage of. I think they'll I could see easily, the Bucks scoring 5 touchdowns. They don't even need the Giants for this.
Already done that twice already this year. I think he's put up 5.
Yeah, and I mean, it could be Bottle Jones and Fournette. They could combine for 4 rushing touchdowns. Maybe. I know you're saying they're not giving a lot of rushing yards, but how many rushing touchdowns are the Giants giving up? Is that something that maybe even if Jones doesn't hit his yards number, he still is a productive fantasy day?
Top of my head, I feel like it's 4. I feel like they've only given up 4 in 7 or 8 weeks. So
maybe not.
Let me double down on that. But I want to say that it's 4, and I want to feel like I'm pretty confident in saying that.
So either way, I think Gladys, you're also saying over on the total touchdowns. I'm assuming.
There you go. Giants have given up 4 rushing touchdowns, 3 receiving.
So Fournette again, right, with the receiving.
Yeah, I think Fournette's going to get 2 touchdowns
per week. Where are we? I'm looking here. Where are you? Come here. 19.8 points to the position. and that's about middle of the pack, give or take.
Okay.
So those receiving touchdowns are happening more than just about as much as the rushing. Which, again, rushing, you wouldn't think the Giants have a solid run defense. They do. But again, you're
Williams.
looking at
What's the weather?
Martinez.
it's cold. I'm freezing. Yes, it's cold. But
See,
I think with those numbers as well, like you got to remember, week 1, I think it was James Conner went off, and Zeke had a big game. Like it's really like
Benny Snell, actually. It was Benny Snell that
Benny
went off.
Snell. There you go. He kind of went in. Yeah, that's the one. You look at it.
But I don't even think he scored a touchdown. I think he just had the 100 yards. That's it.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
And it was also one of those things you look at. Yeah, it was Juju had the 2 touchdowns, I think. So it was one of maybe James Washington. I feel like they had 3. But, David Montgomery did nothing. The Rams running backs, they did nothing. I think it was I feel like it was Jerick McKinnon that took him to task. I feel like that was the week. I'm trying to go through who else. Zeke. I don't think Boston Scott, he was okay. But I don't think they've really been that rattled by running backs this year, which is really surprising considering they're generally...
Was it Gibson?
No, he didn't.
He scored one, but I don't think he did. Man,
Gibson had 30 yards on them, rushing yards for them, against them.
Which is crazy, right? They're kind of holding teams, their running backs, well, which is surprising because you would think that they are losing, 1-6. They're losing a lot of games. Teams are like milking a lot of clock on them. They're going to run the ball. No, it's not happening. Giants' run defense is actually all right. Only 600 yards conceded. Which is bottom up. All right.
And knowing that, we all expect the Bucs to do really well. Brady's at 261.5 passing yards and 1.5 touchdowns. I think based on all what we're talking about, it's got to be over on both of those, right?
Yeah.
It is cold outside. I'll say that one more time. It's freezing.
He played for the Patriots. He played for New England.
Yeah, he does seem like he's one quarterback that isn't so affected by the cold weather too much. So
they gave up.
Is he still that same guy though that he was? I mean, he's gotten used to playing in Tampa for a little bit.
Only the 7 receiving touchdowns to wide receivers from the Giants.
So Gronk, right? I mean, can you throw 2 touchdowns to Gronk?
Again, I think Richard Rodgers torched them last week, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy Graham, I think, was okay against them. Hippie or Everett was one of the 2. Ebron didn't do much, but
Gronk's targets have been slowly increasing. His time on the field pretty much stayed the same. I see Gronk going off. I have no problem playing Gronk as my captain in a couple.
Good point. Yeah, for the DFS angle. So Jones's yards, again, it's 1.5 touchdowns over under on Jones, and then it's 222.5 passing yards. Again, if we expect this to be a game where they're behind, I feel like Jones could probably hit that 222 mark. Or are we that concerned that it's so bad that he might not?
I'm concerned that the front 7 of Tampa Bay is going to destroy him, that he's not going to have time to get passes off. Plus, Darius Slayton doesn't really have a good matchup, so he'd have to throw it short to Evan Ingram, who's not catching the ball. I'm kind of concerned that that's not going to happen for him.
Key component of being a receiver in the NFL is catching the ball. we all thought Nelson Aguilar had problems catching a ball. Turns out it was a Carson Wentz.
I mean, he did have a 0 this week, but there was a lot of weather problems there.
There was a lot of zeros in Cleveland this week.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe less on the. Okay, so maybe more on the because you already mentioned Jones rushing yards, 25.5. That seems more attainable than his passing yards.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see them getting anywhere near that at all. At all. If you said maybe 210, 220, I think the Bucs are going to absolutely ruin them. Like I'm fairly confident that the Buccaneers are going to come in the MetLife and absolutely ruin the Giants, and that starts with Pierre-Paul, Sue, and Barrett, and was it Levante David, and who's the other guy there? Linebacker they drafted last year, not White. Yeah, White. Like they can absolutely ruin them. The Giants can't stop anything like protecting Jones. It's just bad. It's bad. So for him to be able to have the time to throw to guys who don't, I mean, Slayton can get separation, but like Sterling Shepard's crafty enough. What Golden Tate's going to do? What? You know what I mean? Like I think 265 is generous, extremely generous considering like you can't even get those dump offs from like Wayne Gorman. I feel like Alfred Morris is on their practice squad and he's going to get activated at any time.
So we'll get back to the Giants in a sec. Sean added a nice comment here and make Gladys happy. Lamar Jackson has 5 interceptions, been sacked 8 times on 45 career passes versus Pittsburgh. And he has 8 interceptions, been sacked 49 times on 733 career pass attempts against every other team.
Pittsburgh are animals.
So. Well, I mean, 4 of those were yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think hasn't he only played the Steelers once before and he wasn't starting? He came in on that game.
Well, I mean, he would have. Well, I mean, wouldn't he have played the Steelers twice last year?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Roethlisberger. Yes. You're right. Because Roethlisberger was hurt, so he didn't play against Lamar Jackson.
Okay. Yeah. The heads. Yeah, this was their first head-to-head meeting between Jackson and Roethlisberger.
Yeah. I mean, like most of those came yesterday because it was a bad day for Lamar Jackson yesterday. It was just straight up a bad day. He needs to regroup and carry on. But the Steelers' defense is just really good. I mean, in all phases, they're just really good. And I'm not saying it just because I'm a Steeler fan.
No, but they definitely are.
Yeah. I mean, they rush the quarterback like 48% or something. It's something astronomically weird. And the next best team is like 10% less. They're just really good. Fitzpatrick had a good game yesterday, which is the first time in a while. Like Minka hasn't really shown up as much as he should have, but he had a good game yesterday. I will take that in the waning seconds to seal the game anytime.
They went out. They went out and got Avery Williamson today as well, right?
Yeah.
Like they lose Bush and they pick up Williamson. Like this is a team that they have figured out that their window is now. They can win it. That's that team. They aren't messing around. Like that's it. And I'm here for it. The Steelers are. I've been on them all year. I think the Steelers look phenomenal. Roethlisberger looks like he's doing what he has to do. There's another question here we'll get to later on. You're going to get sick of it for the 3rd week in a row, but we'll get to that. But the Steelers, you guys know what it is. But the Steelers, they're legit, and adding Williamson to replace something that they lost is a great move. And 7-0, let it ride. They could go to 10-0 at this point. They look really, really good. Good for them.
So get to some receiver props. So Gronk and Scotty Miller both have 3.5 receptions over under. Miller also has 47.5 receiving yards for over under, and Mike Evans at 50.5. Now, just based on those, is there any obvious picks either to pick over or to pick under for?
Gronk over 3. I think Gronk has more than 3.5 receptions. I think Gronk has more than 3.5 receptions. Is Scotty Miller
in the first quarter?
Yeah.
But truthfully, of all the props we've talked about today, that might be the one I'm most confident in. Him getting 3.5 receptions. I think that's a smash over.
Although we saw yesterday that smashes aren't really smashes anymore. They're just hopes.
That's true.
They're just fainting hopes.
Apparently, Sean's also a Steelers fan. That's why he's bragging so much. But that's why I will allow it here. Been saying Steelers Bucks Super Bowl since the summer. Yeah, that could definitely happen. Of course, Seattle. I say Steelers, but either team could win that. Appreciate the discussion. Yeah, no problem, Sean. Appreciate the comments.
I like Seattle in that mix, though. Steelers could go all the way, though.
I still like the Packers in that mix, even though not the greatest day to say after that loss. Clearly,
turns out all you have to do is run the ball at Green Bay, and they'll just
it's pretty.
Or have Dalvin Cook on your lineup. It's either or.
Are we thinking under for any of those? Scott Miller at 3.5 receptions at 47.5 receiving yards, or Mike Evans at 50.5 yards, or are we just kind of they're all close?
I think whoever's opposite Mike Evans could have a big day. Like, I love the idea of Gronk going off, but the Giants' second cornerback does not help. They're better off without one. They're kind of handicapped at this point. So Miller could look. It's cold outside. If he's doing all right, maybe. And listen, this could be like one of those days where Brady spreads it out to Tanner Hudson, Cam Brayton, whoever. But I feel like Miller's going to have 5 or 6 receptions. It's going to be one of those days. I kind of like it for the overs there. Giants struggle with speed. John Hightower was getting away from him all week last week. Darnell Mooney was getting away from him as well in Chicago. They kind of struggle with the shifty guy. So I'd be surprised if that's something that Scotty Miller kind of gets away with.
Yeah, that's true. Could happen.
But Gronk, I would lean Gronk more, but I thought that was a close one to have in there.
Yeah, I kind of like both of them. But yeah, certainly, Gronk is probably the most, again, I think it's the most confident of everything we've picked tonight so far, at least myself.
Easy.
A few Giants receivers as well. So we got both Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard at 3.5 receptions. 10-yard difference between the two is 43.5 for Shepard and 33.5 for Ingram.
I'd go under on Ingram, maybe push on Sterling Shepard, but Ingram, he's just not good. He can't catch.
I'm definitely not confident picking the over on any of those, just because again we talked about it. The Buccaneers could just completely shut it down and no one reaches any of the overs.
I kind of like Shepard at 43.5 and 3.5. He looked really good last week. He'd been missing since week 2, and he came in and he looked really good. Philly, I know that's a game the Giants should have had, and that game was more open than it looked. I threw the Ingram in there kind of just to throw everyone off. I kind of like Shepard at 3.5 and 43.5. If anyone's going to do anything, I think it's going to be him.
Yeah, looking at it, week 1, 6 catches, 47 yards, 6 catches, 59 last week, and then he had 2 catches, 29. The game he got hurt. So, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe that actually those are a little more confidence building there.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gladys.
No, you're fine. I concur.
Also, defense, special teams touchdown. Yes, is at $3.20.
Yeah. So for a special teams touchdowns, paying $3.20. I don't do this American props. I have to throw the desk. I do that for my people back home. I have no idea. I have no idea how you guys do it. You guys have to do math. It's terrible. But special teams touchdown, defense, special teams touchdown with the weight. I thought that might be interesting to look at because the way that Jones is turning the ball over quite frequently and the way that the Bucs have been sacking everything. I think JPP alone is like 3 fumble recoveries or strip sacks, I think. Something like that. It's off the top of my head, don't quote me, but I feel like that could be something that happens today. Maybe not so much the interception. I feel like Jones could cough one up. JPP is going to get behind him and Ags just knock the ball out and someone's going to pick that up and run.
Do you think that the Giants will get any turnovers? What was the Giants' turnovers?
Giants do all right with turnovers. They're actually, I think they're like 8th or 9th in the league for they actually do okay. Last year they were one of the better teams. I think they had the most. They've had 2 this year already, pick sixes. The Giants are good for it. They do that. They did that last year as well. I think they had 3 or 4 too. So they can do it.
Kyler Frackel's pick 6 was against Dak, was it not?
Yeah, and I feel like.
So it's not even just because Dallas sucks. No, Dak Prescott's pretty good. He doesn't tend to throw too many interceptions. So, and
I feel like it was Tay Crowder that had the other one. I could be wrong. I don't think it was Bradbury. I feel like it was Tay Crowder that had one. Giants linebackers are kind of hurt. Obviously, Crowder's out, and I think Martinez has been fantastic. Fackrell's been pretty good too, but
you're welcome.
No Carter. Yeah, well, no, thank you. Because your linebackers.
Thanks, Packers.
They still do well tackling the Packers. They love linebackers that tackle running backs, but they do okay. But Zimenez is out; he's done for the year, and Lorenzo Carter's out for the year too. So maybe that doesn't happen, but. You don't really feel like Blake Martinez is going to cause a turnover like that, right? So they don't have to come from Fackrell or Downs or whoever else is playing inside. I don't think Tay Crowder's back yet either. David Mayo, I doubt it. I'd highly doubt it. Look, Leonard Williams has looked really good. He's been really good. Lawrence has been okay. Tomlinson's okay. So those touchdowns, I think, have been pick sixes, and that's the only way that's going to happen from the Giants. And I think he's too safe.
I mean, he has thrown a pick six earlier this year, but yeah, I feel like he got it out of his system, and he's not going to do that anymore.
Giants will do it. They're a chance to do it. They're okay at causing turnovers. Just when they get the ball, they don't do anything with it. So I put more money on the Bucks being able to do that because, obviously, again, like they've got like a rookie left. I think Shane Lemieux's playing at left guard today. It's his debut. He's a 5th or 6th round pick out of Oregon, and he's next to Thomas. So, they're in all sorts of trouble. And Lemieux could be awesome.
He's the best option they have.
Yeah, I mean Lemieux.
They're the better option.
Lemieux came out with like a really good grade, and we got him late. And that there was talk that he was going to be a center, and then it looks like he's going to be playing a guard. But you've got Andrew Thomas, who's already struggling against a rookie debut left guard. And a center who doesn't play center, and a right tackle who we've been rotating between Pert and Fleming. So it's one of those things where it's not about how many turnovers or if they turn it over, it's how many. And if they get one for this could be a really, really bad week for the Giants front five, and this could be terrifying. So. Yeah.
So we'll move from your team. We'll talk about Gladys's team again. If anyone paid attention now this will be third week in a row we talk about the same exact question. Dynasty. Keep, trade, or cut. Again, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, these 3 weeks we keep having new information. So I didn't want to take a stab at any of this, answering this.
I'm going to keep this quick, and I leave this one in there every week because 2 weeks ago, everyone was on Juju, get rid of him. They need to get rid of him. Why? Why? Why would you get rid of him? He's really, really good. And he had a couple bad weeks, and Claypool went off, and it's like, well, he's the odd duck, get rid of him. So I felt like every week this was relevant to keep in. And now I'll leave Gladys to answer this for everyone.
Keep Dynasty. I'm really not good at Dynasty. Dynasty, keep Claypool. Okay. This is going to really seem crazy, but I'm really concerned about Deontay Johnson's health. Like, he seems to get hurt a lot lately. So I'm cutting Deontay Johnson and trading Juju Smith-Schuster. Just on Juju Smith-Schuster's name value alone. But Deontay Johnson is injury-plagued lately. This back spasms or whatever it is he has going on. So he's my cut this week.
Every week, right? We could do this every week.
Every week going to be different.
I guess, one thing I was saying, I guess from the first week you did, I said trade Claypool coming off the big monster performance, but coming on to, especially if Johnson can't stay healthy, it does seem like he's maybe the keep, regardless. And I did kind of specify last week, keep if you're rebuilding, but if you're not, he's the trade if you're contending. But I think, erase that completely, and Claypool's the keep.
Again, I have no opinion. I just see this every week because it's one of those things where people were losing it about Juju, and then the next week, he's really good. And Deontay Johnson leads the team in targets again the next week, and Claypool, his numbers look inflated from a rushing touchdown, right? So it's one of those things where it's like everyone's kind of hammering the other guys one week, and then the next it's like forgotten about the other. I still think Claypool's the guy to trade because at this point, the Steelers are going to do one thing in the next draft. They're going to draft another receiver, aren't they? So at some point, the new hotness is coming in. I'd be getting rid of Claypool. I think you could get as much and you could maximize. I don't think there's much you can get for Johnson at this point. So you could probably cut him, and I'd be holding Juju. Because even if he does go into free agency next year, I think he's going to be fine. I think he's a really talented receiver. Not that the other two aren't more or less, but I don't think you're going to get anything like Gladys said. Deontay's kind of up and down. He's hurt. He's not. When he's out there and he's healthy, he's going to go 10, 8, 101. He's going to do that. You can book it.
Yeah.
But he's starting to get that, well, it's a niggle here, it's a niggle there, and then James Washington comes in and does everything else.
right, so one quick question before we leave. Dan put this: Russell Wilson halfway point, 2020 MVP. And we are halfway through, right? Halfway through the fantasy season, certainly. So, is Russell Wilson the obvious case for MVP? Does anyone have a case to make against him?
I don't think you make a case against him, but I think that it's valid to throw Aaron Rodgers' name in there, especially since the perception is that he's working with a less stellar cast. And he has Devontae Adams, he has Aaron Jones, but what other wide receiver can you count on in that offense besides Devontae Adams? Whereas Russ has, he has Metcalf and he has Lockett. I think Russ is a clear leader, but I wouldn't feel bad if someone threw Aaron Rodgers' name in there.
Well, it's crazy, right? No one said Mahomes.
Yeah.
Because what he does is now expected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Isn't
It's
it
one of those.
Yeah.
It's one of those, like, the same reason Belichick hasn't won more than, like, 3 Coach of the Years, right? Like, I can't give it to him every year, right? Like, and you feel like Mahomes is going to win so many over the next course of his career. I wouldn't be shocked if they give one more to Tom Brady as well. I think that's just because of how he's turned this Bucs team around. If I'm voting, I'm voting Russell Wilson simply because, and part of it maybe is because he hasn't gotten it yet, right? Like he's of the quarterbacks in that. I don't even think he has an MVP vote yet.
He hasn't had a vote.
Probably,
yeah. Possible.
Bobby Wagner got an MVP vote one year, but Wilson didn't.
I just a quick one to end with. I wanted to throw this one in, the Kamara question. I've got
sure.
Is Alvin Kamara the 101 in 2021?
Is he what? I'm sorry.
Is he the 101 next year?
Kamara?
Yeah.
I think
I wouldn't, but I wouldn't pick a running back one ever. So no. For me, no.
Non-super flex formats. Yeah, I think definitely in redraft, even dynasty, because he just signed the long-term contract. I'd be really tempted to as well. I think
quarterback is. Do you think Breeze is still going to be the quarterback next year?
It's not going to be.
I haven't been that impressed with Breeze. I think it's all about Sean Payton. As long as Sean Payton is his offensive coordinator, I think he'll be fine.
It's not going to get worse with someone else, is it?
I mean, it could get worse, but it could also get better.
It's going to have Jimmy Garoppolo. I gotcha. But you got
Josh Rosen.
There we go. No, I'm just saying, Christian McCaffrey had that massive year with Kyle Allen, and people were still taking him 101 this year, right?
See, that's why you wouldn't, because they're so injury prone. That's why I wouldn't.
Michael Thomas has barely played this year. Devontae Adams has been injured. I was thinking about it today, and
I actually want to see what McCaffrey looks like coming back. I think if he comes back and is his dominant self, I think it'd probably just go back to McCaffrey again next year. The expectation being that he'll be that, the chance of being that thousand guy again,
and not Dalvin Cook. Ooh, no. The Packers fan says no.
I mean, he's not going to score 4 touchdowns. He's not playing the Packers every week, so he's not scoring 4 touchdowns every week either. I don't, because, and again, I also want to, at what point do we expect Jonathan Taylor and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and maybe even DeAndre Swift? That entire Lions team could look completely different with a new coaching staff. Like, at what point are we expecting those young guys to ascend? And if we expect Dak to come back and the offensive line to improve with the Cowboys, is Zeke not always in that conversation as well? I think it'll definitely be interesting next year in drafts. It won't be this year. It was like McCaffrey 101 almost every league. I don't know that it. You're probably right. Kamara will probably be the guy in most cases, but it could be really interesting. Apparently, the game started. So
Barkley be coming off an ACL. That's what we're talking. Like Kamara could be the guy. I think. I just thought it'd be interesting. Well, 20-yard pass to Scotty Miller. There we go. We're 15 yards away.
There you go.
Perfect.
Bye, Sean.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for the update, Sean. Apparently, Rojo's the starting running back right now, but so we'll see.
Until he drops the pass.
Or blows up.
So,
pass protection assignment. But anyway, yeah, I think Sean's saying he's heading out. I think with the game started, I think we're gonna sign out as well. Anyone want to share their Twitter handles and plug any work?
No.
No, no one wants. So, apparently Gladys has had enough of that, but you can follow her on Twitter at NeverEnoughGLT. Dan's at the B League Says. I'm at Senra Says.
I'm going to plug the life out of everything. I have a New York Giants podcast. I'm at the Back Row Giants. I have a podcast there where we go over everything. It's terrible because if you've had to watch the Giants, imagine listening to someone talk about it a few days later.
I actually find it quite entertaining, to be honest. So.
I have to find something. You got to latch onto something. I used to write things out. I thought, you know what, I'm going to follow a script and I'm going to read it. So I don't know what I'm doing. And at some point I was like, well, the Giants know what they're doing either. So how can I go off a script? But Fantasy Impact for the Back Row Fantasy Show. Watch those guys on Friday night. They're fantastic. And the game plan for going for two. I forgot that one. We were all always forget that one. That comes out once a week as well. Bit of fun. I'll just plug everything. I'll retweet it as well. No shame. None.
Done.
That's it.
And I mean, everything going for two at going for two, goingfor2.com, goingfor2.com or busr.com/going for two for that 20% promo again.
There we go.
Well, I think it's too late to bet on tonight's game, so you can start for next week.
I actually got on the Giants as we were going. I got on the Giants at 13.5 and under 47. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah. They came out that half a point the last half hour. So I was like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Under 13 and Giants plus 13.5 under 47. We'll see how that goes. You're either hearing from me tomorrow or you're not.
Home underdogs, right?
Home underdogs in the unders. Let's smash it. Let's go. So, every week. All right. Have a good week.
All right. And every week we're going to be here Monday night. Gladys, Dan, myself, Kyle. Thank you all for watching Going for Two War Room Monday night.
Thanks, guys. Good luck, everyone. Bye.
Go Giants.
Fuck the Giants.